welcome to the Bailiwick Sport Podcast. Today we've got Scott Clayton in, from the co-founder of Island Padel, and also Phil Bain, who's Deputy Managing Director at Rathbones, been with the firm for over 16 years, and Rathbones are the primary sponsor of Island Padel, in which Scott Clayton co-founded with Morgan Jubb. In terms of Scott's history there, playing career in tennis, reached a career high in the global ATP doubles rankings of 107 before making a permanent move back to the island in 2021 after spending 16 years pursuing and achieving his great dreams on the international tennis stage. Was supported with Rathbones during his playing days and then came back to Jersey and begun his venture in Island Padel in 2021, again supported by Rathbones. So essentially, Scott, I think it's best to start with why paddle after professional tennis? I know it's always difficult stepping away from a professional career, but it seems like you found something you were really passionate about after you finished playing.
Yeah, I think for me, obviously I was doing a lot of travelling with my tennis. I think 2019, one of my last full years on the tour, sort of got up to about 36 weeks on the road, which sort of enabled me to see a lot of the world, and a lot of the time we spent was obviously at tennis clubs and hotels and things like that, and I'd kind of seen these paddle courts popping up pretty much here, there and everywhere, but especially sort of in the Spain, Portugal regions, and we would always sort of play it socially. A lot of the tennis guys were obviously very competitive with each other as athletes, and it was just sort of a thing to sort of get away from the tennis court and do something a little bit different, which we could obviously pick up relatively well, and just absolutely loved it. Loved the sort of the social aspect of it, loved how sort of close you were on the court, so you could interact with partners, opponents, and just the general game, and it kind of struck me actually that it really was a game for everyone. Tennis notoriously is a very difficult sport, and I just saw sort of the opportunity that this is something that really opens up to the community, and then it was something that myself and you mentioned Morgan before, we met through playing paddle, and it was something that we really wanted to bring to the island. And I think Island Padel was sort of founded more as like a consumer, rather than thinking about business and things like that, because essentially we wanted to play paddle in the winter months on an indoor court. So that's how it sort of started, and then obviously it snowballed into what it is now. I think it was just purely from playing socially and seeing the growth in other parts of the world, and understanding that was something that we might be able to do in Jersey.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've just alluded to an important point there. Padel is fast growing across Europe. What sort of made you feel that it would take off here as it has in sort of Spain, Portugal and the regions that sort of first took to it?
Yeah, I think as an island, we're a very sporty island. You look, and I've always been part of sport in Jersey, obviously tennis mainly, but I used to play football as a child, school football and island football, and you look at the rugby, the netball, there's so many sports going on in Jersey, and we do very well in sport, and we are a sporty island, we're an active island, and I just felt, again, exactly that, it was the accessibility of paddle. It's very different to a lot of racket sports. I think people tend to struggle with racket sports in the main, but this was a sport that people could pick up quickly, and play with their friends. I think tennis, again, going back to it, if you're not playing with someone at the same level, it's near on impossible. It's not fun for you as a better player, and it's not fun for you as a weaker player. So whereas this game really enables people to have fun, be active, and be able to feel that they're making progress as well at the same time, which I think is very important.
Yeah, Phil, on your guys' front there, obviously you supported Scott through his playing career. I'm assuming there was a first port of call there with Scott sort of saying, look, I'm after this venture. Sort of what appealed to you guys as a business, sort of jumping onto this from a community aspect and also from you guys wanting to put your name to it?
Yeah, well, I was when Scott was in his sort of fallow period through COVID and tournaments were restricted and, he was stuck at home a lot. He took me through a few tennis coaching sessions, actually, getting me ready for the pro game. But we were chatting one day, and he said, "Oh, Phil, I'm thinking about this. It's difficult. The draws for the doubles are restricted now. This is my career, and I'm not getting to play, etc." He said, "I'm thinking of doing something with paddle. Would you be interested?" Always one for looking for an opportunity, big change in direction, and so he talked through it, talked about the rationales and the reasons for paddle and why he thought it could really grow. It was interesting. We listened to it. For us as Rathbones, we do lots of things sports wise, but also community wise, and this was a really good combination of the two, the sport and creating a community, getting into schools, which I'm sure Scott will talk to you more about, through the charity Paddle for All. So it just when we looked at it and thought about it, it fitted really nicely.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've just alluded to an important fact there in terms of community. It seemed like it was almost a perfect time for paddle coming out of COVID. I know you alluded to, Scott, when you started out, the importance for people getting back together. And it just seemed to be quite a good sport. There wasn't any sort of hand-to-hand contact or close quarters. You could still maintain a decent distance, and it seemed to be a sport that a lot of people latched onto coming out of the pandemic.
Yeah, and I think outside as well, ultimately, when we first started, it was on 2 outdoor courts. So that was another massive factor for us. But, a lot of people were playing maybe indoor with badminton or squash, racquetball, tennis. So, this is something that they could play outdoors and get that sort of active lifestyle. And I think, just alluding to my relationship with Rathbones there, I was very, very fortunate that they were, extremely supportive of me during the pandemic. I mean, nothing was happening. I wasn't playing, and they kept that support for me right through the pandemic. And, you never know how well or bad something is going to go, but I did have a good feeling about paddle and with Morgan, and we were talking about what we could do and what we could implement. And as Phil said, we have a very good relationship, and I wanted to. They'd supported me for so long, and my next step, I wanted to obviously speak to them about it, and I knew that their ethos really matched that of mine and Morgan's and Island Padel, that we're very community driven, and this sport is something that can be accessed by the whole community, and that's why we run on a completely pay and play basis. There's no membership at Island Padel, there never will be, and that's what we really want to drive, is that inclusivity, and people feeling that they can come down, whether they can afford to play once a week or whether they can afford to play 150 times a week, so that's what we really want to do. And for us, obviously we had that relationship there, but Rathbones were and are the perfect company to support that, with our vision of taking that forward. Yeah, absolutely. And sort of got some statistics here from actually an article that we wrote on you guys back in 2021. About 250 players to the site each week in the Island Padel League, and sort of upwards of 3,000 now on the booking system. I mean, has absolutely exploded. What do you think is behind that sort of love of paddle for Jersey? Do you think it is that community aspect? Is it a bit of both? Is it the competitive side mixed with that community aspect? For me, I think it's all about the community aspect. I think we have an amazing product in paddle. I think it's an incredible sport. I think it's a sport that people can take to from all different walks of life. We have people that have played racket sports before. We have people that come from football. We have people that have never picked up any sort of sport in their life, and they come and play paddle and they can play. And I think the world is also a changing place. People want quick success, and paddle is a sport where you can get quite quick success, unlike, again, going back to tennis, where you might be playing for 5, 6, 7 years and you might, make the smallest marginal gain. I mean, Phil will know all about that. No, but
Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott. So while he was still in the tennis circuit, there was a tournament at Caesarean Tennis Club, which was quite well attended, which we played together.
We did.
And we won the tournament.
Yeah.
Was that your, well, obviously your biggest moment, but was that your last?
I think it was my last title. Yeah,
okay.
There we go.
Oh,
yeah,
jeez.
yeah.
It's a huge
You're only
moment
as good as your last result. Yeah, no, yeah, exactly that. Yeah, so exactly that is I think that for us, did we envisage having over 3,000 people in 18 months? Probably not. But could we see where it could get to and it could go? Absolutely. And I think, one of the things that we're really passionate about is, people come down to the facility, a member of the team is there to help them, support them. We run different sort of like social groups throughout the weeks for people that maybe are retired or whatever that may be, and after work leagues and corporate leagues, and and I really think now with the addition of the paddle pad on site, it sort of enhances that social experience. So that's really good. And then obviously it's the other stuff as well. It's very important for us to build on that community, and we have the non-profit organisation Paddle for All, and we go into the schools and offer a free 6-week schools programme, with Rathbones helping us to deliver that as well, which has been amazing. And it's great to see after that kids coming with their parents and families to come and play paddle. So it's very important to us to get that word of paddle out there.
Yeah, for sure. Sort of just looping back to you first starting out, Scott, do you think that sort of natural market that you had from a tennis background really helped you hit the ground running? Obviously, for example, if I've started trying to bring paddle here with no racket sport experience behind me, do you think it added a little bit extra and people said, oh, well, Scott's behind this and he's had a decorated tennis career and it's something we should really look at and take seriously?
Yeah, possibly. Probably it'd be better to ask that of other people, but yeah, possibly. I think I could vouch for the sport being as good as it was, having played it a little bit. But I think ultimately it comes from drive with the team and understanding what we're about, what we're trying to do, where we're going, staying in that lane and going there. And I think that for me, it was one of the problems I have with sport, whether it's in Jersey or whether it's globally, quite frankly, is, if there's a fantastic sporting facility, the majority of the time it comes with a membership. Most great sporting facilities, gyms, whatever they are, to be involved, you have to be a member.
Yeah.
And for me, I didn't, and Morgan, we were very clear on the fact that we wanted to put an incredible paddle facility in Jersey, which costs a lot of money, and make it accessible to anyone can come down there and play.
Yeah.
And that was, again, exactly one of the reasons why we stuck and are sticking with that pay and play model, and also that the court rates were reasonably priced compared to other paddle facilities in the UK. And I think that's ultimately one of the things that's been amazing about this, is what I alluded to before, is we have people there that can afford, to play so much, but some people that can't afford to play as much, yet they come down to the paddle facility and they're together. Yeah. It's not like you're over there because you earn this and you're over there because
as you said, there's no blanket membership that everyone's being forced to pay. You can just play as much or as little as you want.
Exactly.
And I know Scott doesn't want to blow his own trumpet in terms of his influence, but it is it's really important if you're starting something new, if you're going to get people on side, encouraging, have a passion and be enthusiastic about it and engaging. You go down to paddle. If Scott sees anyone there, sees somebody he hasn't met, he'll go and have a chat to them, chat to people. He's got loads of time, really engaging, welcoming, creates that atmosphere, creates that community.
Yeah, it's hugely important. And I mean, you've raised important points with paddle for all there. I know the corporate league has exploded. I think a lot has been said, especially in the finance industry, of the need to help mental health and fitness. And most of the people that I've spoken to that have been around in the paddle league just absolutely love it. It's that little break, that little bit of headspace they get in the middle of the week. How impressed have you been with the corporate side of things, Phil?
Oh yeah, that's been great. We've Rathbones got team in there. I think we've entered 2 teams this time. Our staff can't get enough of it. They're loving it. They're there tomorrow, I think, with a session. Booked a couple of courts, and that well-being side of it is so important. I mean, it's lives are stressful. We see that more and more with mental health and how difficult it is for people coping. And I think COVID hasn't helped from that perspective, work longer hours, working at home, etc. And what's really important is to have something you look forward to doing that you can have a real break from. Whether it's obviously sport has always been that case, and paddle plays nicely into that. But it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's watching TV, gardening, cooking, whatever. Just something to look forward to have a break from, and to meet people. Yeah. And yeah, paddle as many other sports, but sits very nicely for that.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is that social interaction that we almost lost through the pandemic. I mean, you're sitting there working from home, you don't have them sort of chats at the coffee machine, you don't have that interaction the same way between colleagues, and I think coming back into sports and leisure activities has been so important for people. And I mean, that lends sort of nicely into the fact that you come out of the pandemic, people are loving the sport, enjoying it, and then Storm Ciarán comes along, and sort of in the space of one day, overnight, pretty much everything that you'd built is gone. I mean, what was going through your guys' head there? You're going through a period where things are as good as they have been and only look to be getting better, and then in the space of no time at all, you're back to square one, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, look, it wasn't easy, it was very challenging, or has been a very challenging 10 weeks when filming this. We're 10 weeks post the storm. It's been difficult, there's no doubt about it. Mentally, very challenging, and obviously a lot of pressure to get things back. And I think, just touching on the point before, Jersey Sport did an audit when we started Island Padel, and 49% of adults didn't meet the World Health Organization's recommended daily physical activity, which is 60 minutes, and 81% of children in Jersey didn't meet that either. So I've said it quite a few times, but obviously as a business it was devastating, but actually we've also felt a duty to our community and our player base to get that back up and running as quickly as possible, because a lot of people do rely on paddle and that social interaction that they have down at the facility to help them with exactly whether it's mental health or just that general physical output. But yeah, it's been a really, really challenging time. I don't think anyone's really equipped to deal with that when it happens. I will say that my time in tennis has probably helped me a little bit, and obviously having an amazing business partner in Morgan has helped me a lot, and a great family as well. But in tennis, unless you're the one person that wins every week, you're losing at some stage. So I'm quite used to dealing with adversity in my life, and uncertainty, going from tournament to tournament, not knowing how much maybe you're going to pick up at the end of a week. But it has been a really challenging time, probably one of the most challenging in my life, absolutely, and the stress that comes with it, and there's still a lot to do, there's no doubt about it. But I feel we opened at the weekend on 3 outdoor courts, so not as much as what we had before, but it's a start, it's something. Courts were busy, and now it's working, one, to get the facility back to where it was and better, and two is working to get that momentum back up. People obviously love the sport, there's obviously a need for it, And it's just, again, creating that atmosphere and that community down there, which, you know, I've got no doubt we've got a great team and we'll do, you know. And we've had amazing support from Rathbones. Again, this week, we're talking on Monday now, any booking that comes in on Monday to Thursday this week, Rathbones have covered the full court cost, and any booking that is made is going to the relief fund for the Bailiff Relief Fund for people affected by the storm, because obviously we know there's a lot of people out there that were affected, and, you know, especially in our sort of home parish of St Clement's as well. So that's been another amazing gesture by them, and yeah, for us now we need to continue to do the work to get it back to where it was, which I'm sure we will.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on an important point there. So, Phil, obviously a great initiative there from Rathbones to essentially cover the cost there and give that money to the Bailiffs Fund. I mean, why was that important to you guys, fresh out of Storm Ciarán, to do an initiative like this, especially reopening a place that was devastated by the storm?
Well, it's a fraction, really, of what Island Padel have suffered, but it's something we felt it would be really nice to do. Something that is contributing not just to Scott and Island Padel, but also a means of contributing to the fund as well. But again, by the way that we said we'll cover the cost of the 3 full courts for this week, and fund that to Island Padel, and then anyone who comes and books and plays, so the players, their contributions will be going directly to the Bailiffs Fund. So it's just a really nice way, we thought, of everyone being in partnership of it. Us, Island Padel, and the people who are going to play, and their money will be going straight to the fund. So it's just a sort of nice gel, and I say, Island Padel has lost from getting people out playing and from income to build what they're doing from the charity side, etc. This is relatively small gesture, but it's something that felt quite nice to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you were incredibly pragmatic at the time, Scott. I know after the facility went, you turned around and sort of said to me when we spoke about it that there were people that were displaced from their homes, and sort of your thoughts went out to them more so than your facility, and knowing people's situations. So I mean, relief funds like this is so important to them people that are still being personally affected by the storm. Yeah,
absolutely. And, you know, if any bit of this can help, then, you know, that's going to be massive. We've seen the effect that helping people, again, whether it's getting them out, playing paddle or whatever it may be, has done for people's livelihoods. So, you know, this has obviously been a massive event in Jersey, and hopefully one that we won't have for a very, very long time, if ever again. But this is a way of as Phil rightly said, is like, it's that community. You know, there's so many different parts of this working together to help, you know, put that money into the fund to, you know, help people somehow is going to be really, really good. And then from us as a personal thing, if we can get back up and running and people can come and play again as quickly as possible, then, you know, for us that's position A. Yeah, absolutely. And you spoke about trying to get people back as soon as possible. Obviously, have you seen that sort of take up as soon as, obviously it's only a couple days in as we speak now, but in terms of court bookings, have you seen the same people desperate to return and booking up them slots? Yeah, definitely. It's been steady. It's been good. I think, as I said, I think there's definitely going to be work from our end to get things going again. We're going to start another league on the outdoor courts, and you know, we've got a few plans of a few different sort of initiatives that we can run in this time. But yeah, so it's going to be a bit of work, no doubt about it. But you know, we've done it before. I'm sure we can do it again. And actually, you know, if we take a step back and we look at what the storm did do for us, is it gave us a couple of months where we could really sort of you know, look at what we're doing. You know, I'm sure we can all vouch for when you're very busy operationally, you know, there's so much going on that other things maybe take a back seat, you know, so those other things now could really take the front seat, and we could get on top of that as a business and sort those things out that we needed to look at. And, you know, I think we've done that well in this period. So we've used these 10 weeks effectively. And now it's about rejuvenating and coming back and trying to be better than before.
Yeah, absolutely. So 3 outdoor courts at the moment in action, 2 obviously left to be built, and 3 essentially back undercover by the time the project's fully complete.
Yeah, so that's the plan. Obviously dealing with contractors, manufacturers, we've been very, very lucky. We've had a lot of support from those guys. Some amazing work being done by AAL with the demolition. Hackle & Cook coming in now to do some work on the foundations, and obviously Padel Tech, the manufacturers, and the Spanish guys with the canopies. So we've been very lucky with who we've been working with, the engineers, TNG, like everyone has come together to try and get this, because I think people could see how it was benefiting people, so they want to get it back up and running for everyone as well. So hopefully sort of mid-April we'll be back to where we were, and then we can look at how we progress from there. Yeah, so
I mean, it's probably an idea that might have taken the back seat now, but I mean, judging by the expansion and how paddle was growing, there was talk among people as to whether there would be another facility opened somewhere else on the island. I'm sure that's probably taken a back seat while you try and bring your one facility back into action. But in terms of looking forward to the future, would that be something you'd like to see over here?
Yeah, possibly. There were conversations being had. There still are. I wouldn't say it's taken a backseat. Things don't move like that overnight. So, conversations are still being had. But I think what is important is, to be sure that it's going to be right. There's a lot of models out there that have overcapitalized on courts. And as I just said earlier, we drive a lot of the utilization as well. I think that you look at the Swedish model, everyone was sort of jumping on the bandwagon of paddle. They saw this sport exploding, and they all wanted a bit of it. But then what happened was the courts were there and bookings didn't come in, and essentially there was more courts than demand. So I think we've got to be very careful there that one, it's not being overcapitalized, the game, but also two, as Phil said, for me, what's very important about that place being busy and being vibrant is that staff are there to welcome people and to have that. And, with another facility, we cut ourselves a little bit thin. But, we have a big team. We have a big team of people. We have a good team. And I think we can do it, yes. And whether we will do it we're still having those conversations. But can we do it? Yeah. Would it be good for the island? I think so, but we'd need to just have a look at those numbers and make it make sense.
Yeah, that's understandable. And I mean, just touching on your team there for a second, I mean, starting out, you obviously got coaching from Mauro Andrini, one of the top players in the world, one of the top coaches in the world from Hello Padel.
Yep.
And I mean, obviously training you guys up to be top coaches and having that available. How important has that connection with Mauro been in terms of obviously giving you guys the expertise and your team the expertise to coach people over here?
Yeah, it's been massive. I think, whatever we do, we want to make it the best. So Maori has got one of the best academies in the world online with Hello Padel, as you say. And for us, he was the right person to go to. He was basically born with a paddle bat in his hand. I think a lot of people now, a little bit like myself, they've transferred from maybe tennis and stuff. And, yes, they've got great knowledge. But, you're talking about a guy who's been involved in the sport for over 30 years. A lot of contacts, some great content, and he also is such an entertainer that it fits really nicely into that sort of vibrant community that we want to drive. So he's been amazing, and as I said, whatever we do, we want to do it the best. So we want the best courts, the best sponsors, the best coaching for our coaches to be able to then deliver the best for our people.
Yeah.
And with Maori we have that, and we're very lucky. So he's been huge, and we're very, very fortunate to have that affiliation with him and Hello Paddle.
Yeah, and sort of looking in terms of what you've hosted, you already spoke about the facility in general and will be back to where it was, but I mean, you've had some top tournaments over here, boasting a facility that a lot of the top paddle magazines have turned around and said they're few and far between facilities this good. So going forward, is that something you'd both like to see? I know Rathbones sort of sponsored one of the main tournaments, one of the grade 1 tournaments that came over. Is that something you'd both like to see more of in the future?
Definitely. There's the community side, the charitable side, the getting it out to everyone's side, but it's nice to have the higher level stuff going on as well, and it gives everyone something to aspire to well, okay, I could get that good, I could improve. So that is quite an important part. So very keen to be involved with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that people want to see what good looks like, and if people don't travel to Spain or Argentina, then we can bring it here. And again, we've done 2 great tournaments with Rathbones sponsoring. They were the 2 largest LTA paddle events in the last 2 years, and this year we've already agreed with them, the LTA, to put one on again at that first weekend of September, which I think is a really great weekend. The weather's usually good. I know I'm going to say this now and it'll probably be terrible, but it's good, and I agree with Phil. It just again enhances that sort of social aspect. And I think flipping back to my tennis days, what I always used to find is that we would play events in Milan, Madrid, all these like big capital cities, and essentially for the majority of the time you would be playing in front of like a man and a dog, but actually when you went to some remote part of Portugal or France, that's when the community really comes together, and I really feel that about Jersey, is that when there's good events and big sporting events, the community come together to watch, because they want to. And I think that's also another great way of us giving back to our player base and the community by showing them, look guys, this is, we're going to bring this to here, and this is how good players play. And then it also drives people wanting to play as well, because they see that and, they want a bit of it. So yeah, absolutely 100%. Competitions are a big thing for us. It's a lot of work. So I think we won't be doing them every weekend. But yeah, if we can maintain that high standard of an LTA competition, and then again pre-Storm we were looking at a couple of other things to do. With like a ladies only event, there's a big company out there that do that. We were looking at bringing one to Jersey, so just different initiatives like that I think would be really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. You touched on it there. It's crazy what watching elite level events do for participation. I mean, not everyone's going to be the cream of the crop, are they, at a sport? But I mean, when the World Darts Championships on, everyone starts throwing darts in the pub, etc. The Masters Snooker gets on, everyone gets obsessed with that. And it's the same, I saw it over here with the LTA tournaments, that people go watch that and suddenly you think, I could be better at that. It's great to watch when people can play to that standard, and you think, if I get slightly better, this game might be that much more fun and exciting. So it does drive participation in its own way as well.
Absolutely, yeah, I think exactly that. And I think, again, it brings people down to the facility that may not have been to the facility before, and they see and they feel that atmosphere and that vibe. Okay, it's not every day that we've got maybe a food van down there and things like that, but they see the general people who are there often playing, being part of the community, and that's where we are very lucky. And I do stress that a lot to the people that play at Island Padel, is that we can help facilitate that sort of vibe, but then ultimately you need good people to bring it, and we're very, very fortunate in the people that play paddle. They're amazing people. The amount of messages that we had of support, obviously when the storm happened and things, was incredible. So we're very, very fortunate with the player base we have, and we want that to grow as well.
Yes, and from your side there, Guernsey sort of got the jump on the paddle front. I know we've spoken in the past about how you guys were sort of fighting to catch up with them in terms of interinsular stuff and have been getting better year upon year. Is that some way where you think Jersey's getting to a point where they're getting on terms and can maybe sort of surpass Guernsey in terms of not just participation, but that sort of elite level where you can start competing? Because there's nothing Jersey guys and girls want to hear more than they're doing better than their Guernsey rivals. So
yeah, I think Guernsey are doing a great job there. I don't really know too much about their numbers and stuff, but I would say that we're probably up there, if not more than them now, in terms of participation. They run a very different model to us. They run on a membership basis, which works for them. It's at a tennis club. But I think that, you know, although we have that natural rivalry with them, you know, we've also got a good relationship with them. I think that we've very much so, people coming from a tennis background, as Phil will agree, is that you participate in tennis as a county a lot of the time, and so that is Jersey and Guernsey working together, believe it or not. So a lot of those relationships have already been formed from previous years. So yeah, of course there's that friendly rivalry there, and I'm sure we'll get the upper hand on them. When
I think there was a Channel Islands team
also
just played in the UK, which is a mixture of the top Jersey and Guernsey players. So so that's started to happen quite a lot, and Rathbones again supported that team going over to Bristol, I think it was, and so, you know, that's starting to happen. And yeah, so as I say, we've got a great relationship with them. Yes, they had their facility a few years before us on 3 indoor courts, and they've just recently built 2 outdoor courts, a very similar sort of setup of the facility now. But yeah, hopefully many good sort of events with them in the future, whether it's interinsulars or us going across. And, you know, they were very kind as well. They said to us about if people wanted to go over to Guernsey during the storm, then they'll help accommodate them and stuff like that. So yeah, they've been great.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yes, I think it's great to have both Phil and Scott onto the pod. I mean, guys, get down to paddle. Just recently opened up on Saturday. And keep an eye on Island Padel socials as well. Check out the updates. Expecting to be back fully operational by April, hopefully. So keep an eye on that and any of the initiatives that Padel will have opening in the future. Thanks for coming on, guys. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.